I think 60% of what you learn in art school is bullshit, with the exception of art history. Art history is really important because that can help you develop your work. Other than that, there's a lot of fluff. And there's a lot of professors trying to teach you to paint like them.
Basically stuff you gotta forget.
Yeah, I mean, it can really harm your work. I've seen it harm work. But, you know, go if you must and do what you must. Some of the greatest, well-known painters did not go to art school. Leonardo da Vinci didn't, Van Gogh, Toulouse-Lautrec, even Walt Disney, did not go to art school. And look what they did. Look what they became. I mean, Leonardo da Vinci, we're still using his tools to carve in stone and make sculptures to replicate human beings. I mean, the man was a genius, but he didn't go to art school. That's not to say that you don't have to learn the rules. But today, you can learn the rules on the internet. Today, there are artist co-ops and artists who get together who can teach each other. We have great groups in Atlanta of artists who get together and have their own little co-ops together. In my opinion, you have to learn composition. That's extremely important. You have to learn perspective. You have to learn anatomy if you're going to include figures in your work. You've got to learn color theory. You've got to learn spatial relation. They're a must. They're a must. Even as an abstract artist, they're a must. You've got to learn the rules in order to break them. Most of my abstract artists started out as realist painters. I'll use Caio Fonseca for instance, the small black and white piece that's down there. He did all figurative and landscape work when he started out as a painter. And he started to go, as he calls it, the university. He started going to the university, but his brother told him to leave and come and study with a great painter in Italy with him. And so he did, he quit. He has very little formal education, but he did learn all the things that I speak of. He knew how to do perspective, he knew color theory, he knew spatial relation, he knew composition. And moved beyond that. He wanted a simpler way in which to say what he had to say as an artist. Talking about the honest assessment of your talent and why you create artwork. There are a lot of artists with great ideas, unique ideas, revolutionary ideas. And there are some galleries that have incredible technical skill. I am not a fan of photorealism. I believe that photorealism is a technique. I believe that photorealism, that anyone can learn technique. Therefore, it does nothing for me. Other people love it. I mean, photorealists think that artists who do abstract work is, it's crap. And a lot of times they're at divisive points. But for me, it does not. But when you can bring incredible ideas and incredible creativity and incredible revolutionary language that has not been said before, together with incredible technique, wow, that's when it happens. That's what when I jury shows, I say that's when one line can become a masterpiece, when one swipe can become a masterpiece. There's a gallery for every artist. There is. There is a gallery for every artist. But sometimes artists aren't necessarily great at assessing whether a certain gallery is right for them. So investigation has to take place on your part to look at the gallery, look at the artwork that they carry, the type of artwork that they carry. is every gallery is different and every artist is different, but there is a gallery for every artist. Courtship, it's not with me. And I'll get into networking and why that is your most important tool. It's networking and being out in the community and meeting people and meeting gallery owners. Having your face seen is the most valuable tool you can have as an artist, more than anything else that you do, in terms of getting representation by a gallery. You can either be the top artist, you can be the bottom artist, or you can be in between. And by that, I mean, there are some artists that just love being the top artist in a gallery. They're a legend in their own hometown. But I don't know that that necessarily long-term is going to advance your career. You've got to challenge yourself. You've got to take sometimes that lower platform and build to that mid-platform, and then move up. And assessing that and being aware of that journey is really, really important. Rotating your art. Artwork should be rotated on a minimum of 3 times per year. Now, I'm not saying that everything has to go out and everything has to come in, but I'm saying when a client comes in, a collector comes in, they go, "What's new?" Well, if I haven't seen you for 3 months, you're not new. The person who just sent me artwork is the newest thing that's come in. So you need to keep that inventory fresh, and you need to keep the gallery fresh for you. Pricing of your artwork. I have artists who come in all the time and they go, "Wow, that's $11,000. My artwork is as good as that." It might very well be, but you haven't paid your dues. This is an artist that has been painting for 20 years and is in 15 major museums. Your work may be as good. You've got to go up the ladder just like anybody in the corporate world does, and you've got to pay your dues and work up. It's all part of that formula of what I'm telling you about, of you've got to have your lower galleries, and then at a certain point you get to a mid-career, and then you might want to get rid of those galleries and find better galleries in other areas. It's all a very methodical business plan. It's not by accident. And that's what gallerists do, or at least that's what galleries should be doing, I should say. Let's talk about social media. And this is probably one of the best and greatest pieces of information I can share with you. Once you start getting a collector base, it's just like interviewing for a job. When I just hired my administrator, I got over 700 applications in 24 hours. And I had to have a way to weed those out. Even if your settings are set to private, there's still a way to access your information. I eliminated that down to 25 just by looking at their social media pages. Their politics, what kind of human being they were, what they do. You're interviewing for a job. And your collectors will do the same thing, because eventually your collectors will friend you on Facebook or friend you on Instagram, and they look at that. Now, I'm very passionate about my politics, but I don't air them on social media. But you need to think about the business of art. An art dealer has the lowest profit margin of any business in the world. Needless markup, my name for Neiman Marcus. A shirt is made in India. With the taxes and the tariffs, it comes into the United States, it costs them $6. They have a 20-time markup on it. They sell it for $120, sometimes more. We're talking about 50-50 here. And we're talking about having to pay rent. We're talking about having to pay for openings, because in our business, it is the law You must have an opening every 8 weeks. I don't know who made up this law, but it's the law. And every opening cost me $10,000. Think about that. Invitations. I may be the only gallery left on the earth that still sends out paper invitations. But invitations, advertising, the party itself, any advertising we may do. The postage alone is, over $1,000. And we don't take that from our artists. We take it out of our 50%. I'm also very unique in the way I handle my clientele. Discounting. I could scream at galleries who ever started discounting artwork. For me, and I explain it to collectors when they come in, or new clients when they come in, and they go, well, so-and-so gives me 20%. And I go, oh, really? Didn't your mama ever tell you don't get something for nothing? Where do you think that 20% is coming from? And if you get 20% on that piece of artwork right there, you devalue that piece of artwork for everyone else who's bought it. Do you really want to devalue what you're buying? And do you want to devalue everyone else's artwork? What I do is I have a VIP collector repeat allowance. Once a collector spends $50,000 with me, I give them 5% for life. Once a collector spends $100,000 with me, I give them 10% for life. And once a collector spends $150,000 with me, they get 15% for life. That's an incentive program. It's not a discount. And that program does not come out of the artist part. So let's put me down at a starting of 35% profit, which puts me lower than the lowest life profit margin. And everything else has to come out of that. These required 7 to 8, and the walls, and the employees that I have. And we don't live beyond our means with employees. When the recession hit, I had 8 employees. I've learned how to operate with 2.5. I can build a crate. I can sweep a floor. I don't need to be grander than grand. I don't need to sit behind my desk and point little fingers. If you read about us on the internet, you'll see our reviews. They're the most friendly staff. The owner always comes out and speaks to me. We try to make it not this hoity-toity, unattainable experience. We try to make it a welcoming experience so that people feel comfortable, because when they come into an art gallery to begin with, a lot of them have never even been in an art gallery. We have people that open our door and say, what's the admission? They don't know the difference between us and a museum. So we have to make them feel at home. We have to make them accessible. My greatest experience was what became the CEO of American Express at another gallery that I worked at early on, was looking at an abstract painting, and he was like, I really like this, but I don't know what it means. And I said, why does it have to mean something? How does it make you feel? And we continued to talk, and I found out he was a bass fisherman. So I found an area of the painting that looked like a bass. And I said, do you see that bass being pulled out of that water there? And he was like, yes! I'm pretty good at sales. And he called me about 3 months later, and he said, Alan, thank you so much. And I said, for what? And he said, this has been the greatest experience of my life. And he said, people come in my office, very important people, and they go, what is it? What does it mean? And he's like, how does it make you feel? And he said, I've had so much fun with this. You've opened my eyes to a new type of artwork. I no longer have to have Forrest Hunt scenes on my wall. And it's the things like that in your career that just, that really make it worthwhile. To sign with a dealer or not? That's a good question. There are lots of venues out there now. The internet has opened it up. You've got Etsy, you've got Pinterest, you've got Tumblr, you've got Facebook. There are lots of avenues out there to market and promote yourself. And I get back to that really depends on what type of career you want. In order to become an artist, with the exception of one that I know of in the world, but I think that empire shall too fall eventually, it does take the hand, the work, and the approval of the brick and mortar still, I think. I don't think that the brick and mortar will ever go away. I do think that the brick and mortar decorative works will go away, because decorative galleries will go away, because that is a lot of what you see on Etsy and what you see on the internet. I get back to you are who you associate with. And I tell my artists this all the time, but it's certainly possible. But I think that serious collectors want that hand and that approval of someone who has studied art, who's been a dealer for a long time, to advise them and give them. There are certain things you can buy on the wall, on the internet, but it's pretty much going to be for beach houses and for, and for decorative spaces. I feel that way passionately. And I'm not saying that because I'm a dealer. I just see that that's the way that it is. And, but there are certainly options, out there. Finding the right dealer. First of all, get to know them. You need to make sure that your personalities align and your vision align. Contracts. Why they exist. Contracts exist for a reason. Contracts exist because someone's been burned. Contracts exist because a mistake has been made. They exist for a reason. I used to have a handshake. I can think of my artist David Fraley, who passed away, and who was a very good friend of ours. Back in the day, he would come in and say, Alan, I need to get 4 paintings and send them to a gallery in North Carolina. I'm like, fine, go back and get them. And he'd go back and get them, off he would go. There was no signing of paperwork. It was on an honor system. But then when he died, suddenly his executor became interested in his art career. Never had been interested before. Alan, where are these 4 paintings? David took them like 6 months ago. Where did they go? I have no idea, somewhere in North Carolina. A week later, the papers arrived. I was being sued because 4 paintings were not accounted for. I learned a very good lesson at that point. First of all, the longer you're in business, the more envious people are going to become, the more lawsuits you're going to see. It just happens in business. I've had 4 in my lifetime as a gallerist. All of them completely unfounded. All of them completely should not have happened. We don't have tort reform in the state. Anyone can sue you for anything, They can not like your nose and say, I'm going to sue you. And it's up to you to defend yourself in court. You got to pay. You got to pay to defend yourself. And so off we went to arbitration. My attorney said, Alan, do you want to pay them $18,000 for those 4 paintings? Or do you want to pay me $300,000 to fight this? My mother always told me, defend for your rights, fight, fight, fight. Alan, do you want to pay them $18,000 or do you want to pay me $300,000 to defend this? Write the check. So I wrote the check. 2 months later, the gallery in North Carolina called me and said, hey, I've got 4 David Fraley paintings. Where do you want me to send them? I said, send them to me. I own them. Contracts, they exist for a reason. And that started my path down contract land. Everything that happened, the other 3 lawsuits that happened, clarity in my contracts became clearer because of those things happening. Do I like them? No, I don't like contracts. But you need to remember, as an artist, you're in control. The gallery is not in control. If there's something you don't like in the contract, challenge it. If there's something that you don't understand in the contract, ask the questions. Don't just sign it. Ask, why does this provision exist? What happens if, what are your, this is not outlined and I want it outlined. I want the insurance coverage outlined. I want the shipping back and forth outlined. I want how payment disbursements are being done outlined. I want to know in writing when I'm going to get paid. Something that is very important for all artists to understand, I never know why the district attorney for the state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta would not enforce it. There exists a Georgia Consignment Act law on the books. I helped write it. I got together with the Individual Artists Coalition and took it before State Senate. It's on the books, and that law states that a gallery holds the artist money in escrow for the artist. You're not supposed to pay your light bill, you're not supposed to pay yourself, you're not supposed to pay anything else. It is your money. Pick that up off the internet, Google it, find it, read it, know what your rights are before you go and approach a gallery. The law exists on the books. The difficulty with the law in the United States is it is only as good as you can afford to enforce it. And that is why artists who don't have a lot of money get taken advantage of so much. All of these artists with the lawsuit that I'm talking about, there was a game. About $170,000, let's let it leak out. Because if you go to the Georgia Lawyers for the Arts, or if you go to a private attorney and you say, help me, you can take this money and we'll do it on a contingent basis and you can take part of it, they'll go, it's going to cost me $300,000. Just keep that in your mind. A lawsuit's $300,000. It just is. It's going to drag on for years. Do you really want to let that fester in your gut for 3 years and deal with it? Most of the artists were told, walk away. Just walk away. Thank you very much for coming. I appreciate it.